3. My son had a couple of dreams. And I know they were either the same night or close to in proximity to time. Before I tell you those two, he had a dream that he and I were in an elevator with an old man and some other people. The elevator started to go up. And at one point it stopped and tilted like it was going to fall. And he said, "I'm afraid. I don't want to die." And the old man told him, "You're not going to die." He said, "It's up to the Lord to decide when we die." He said, "Don't be afraid." That's the first thing he said, "Don't be afraid. You're not going to die." Isn't that like God? The first thing he would tell people in the Word of God, Jesus would tell them, or the angel of the Lord would come and say, "Don't be afraid." He addressed the fear. You're not going to die. My son said it again, "But I'm afraid. I don't want to die." "Don't be afraid. You're not going to die. It's up to the Lord to decide when we die." And he woke up, and I condensed it, but he woke up. And then, I don't know, a couple weeks later, 3 weeks later, he has these 2 dreams of bees trying to sting him. He and his sister, Courtney, my oldest daughter. Marcus is my son's name. Then Marcus had a dream that my sister and I were talking about the return of the Lord. And then he said in the dream that the Lord's return was soon. The Lord was coming soon. And then, I have the dreams on tape. It was very, very short, so I might put it on here, I might not. But he had this other dream of those were the 2 dreams, the last 2 dreams he ever had. And so the night before he passed, they had to cut out food and water, anything by mouth, because they started a medication that was to try to help his lungs. And if I had known that he wasn't going to make it, I would have asked them to stop that medication sooner, because he wasn't able to eat, which is fine because his appetite was already leaving him. His body was shutting down. But he couldn't drink anything, and he was on IV fluids, but his mouth was so dry. I think that's the part that hurts me the most, knowing how thirsty he was. You know, I just thought about it. Jesus was thirsty when he was dying on the cross. So he identified with my baby's sufferings. I remember some nights I'd be tired and Mommy just sleeps. But this particular night I got up with him. Every time he got up and they allowed him, I asked the nurse, can we have some water? We get it on a sponge and let him kind of chew on the sponge so he could get his water. And then, but by 6 o'clock that morning, I think that's when because we were doing the change of shifts, and they said, "Okay, well, we can try the little sponge of water," because we tried through the night, little sponge of water, but we tried to get more. And I think he either tried to drink with the cup. We took the BiPAP off, so the mask off, so he could try to drink it. No, he did it with the sponge. I was giving him with the sponge. That's what it was. And I remember giving him, I would do like 2 or 3 chews with the sponge, but I felt so sorry for him. Like, he asked me for a little more at night when I did like 2. Can I have one more? And I gave it to him. So that by 6 in the morning, I felt so bad for him. He looked so sweet. He didn't complain. He didn't ask for the extra. But I gave him an extra, and that extra made him choke, and he started gagging and vomiting. I felt so bad. I felt so bad, and I cried with him. Before that, I cried with him. He said, "I'm so thirsty." He said, "Why won't they let me drink?" And I said, "Honey, I know." I got in his bed, and I held him, and I said, "I know. I'm sorry." And I didn't drink anything, because if he wasn't going to drink, I wasn't going to drink. We were going to suffer together. He wasn't going to eat, I wasn't going to eat. For some reason, I talked to him about the cup of suffering. I think that a couple days before he passed. And then in the book of Garden of Gethsemane, I was reading him that story in the Bible. And asking, "Lord, if it be your will, let this cup pass. Nevertheless, Not your will, but my will be done. And that day people were telling me, fight, don't give up the fight. But it didn't hit me that he was leaving me that day. I had something in storage in my trailer from California, my 2 trailers. I got a call that you need to come move them now. We're expecting a storm and flooding, and if you don't move them, my property is going to flood. And I said, I can't leave. I told the staff, and the palliative care team was coming in. They said, no, you're not leaving today. I didn't know. Had I left, I would have felt so bad. Because I'm thinking, well, I'll just have to leave and take care of it. But it became evident throughout the day that he wasn't going to make it. And my sister was going to come the day before, and I said, take your time, he's going to be fine, we're going to have faith. But by that day, she was trying to get a flight out, and I said, I don't know if you're going to get here in time. And I requested, my daughters were home, and I requested that they be brought down. And by the time they came, he was gone. I played worship throughout that day. And I cried, and I travailed, and I cried, and I travailed. And God, remember the dream you gave him. And I held on to that, thinking, well, if he does pass, he'll come back to me. But there's a song that by Tasha Cobbs, Leonard, He Knows My Name, or You Know My Name. And my son liked that song, and I liked that song. We would listen to it going to the hospital in LA, Children's Hospital in LA. He loved worship, so I put worship on that entire day. But there's a part of the song that talks about, here in your presence, I am made new. It didn't hit me till after he passed that, and I played it that day, but it didn't hit me till after he passed that he was in the Lord's presence and he was made new. One of the first things he said in the dream about heaven when he was 5 was that he was running. He was laughing, running, playing, and having fun. In real life, I can't remember the last time he ran. And he would cough and get winded. He would get winded, start coughing, and go into the coughing spasms. And it got to the point in June, before he went in, he couldn't laugh without running out of breath. And those were the 2 things he was doing in heaven. How could I be sad? I guess I'm sad because I miss his physical presence. He was so affectionate, and so loving and sweet, and all that he went through, he never complained. He didn't ask, why did I have to get sick and get cancer? I wish I could have been like normal kids. And I said, you are normal. God just gives his special soldiers the ability to handle life's trials. He knows who can handle more and who can't. And he knew that Marcus loved him. Marcus loved him no matter what. He used to cry because he wanted to see God. He used to cry because he wanted to see Jesus. He had the most amazing dreams. And I'm sorry, look at his picture. He had the most amazing dreams. Seeing Jesus telling him to come to him. That's a picture I have of my baby. There was a light about him, a brightness. When you look in his eyes, and that certain smile that will let you know that everything's going to be okay. Like he was at peace. There's a certain smile he would get. And he let me know that he was at peace. I since have, my grief has come in waves, and it's hit me so strong. And I told my daughter one day last week, it was right before New Year's, I was crying, and I said, I just wish I could hear his voice one more time. I just wish I could hold him one more time. Because she said, Mommy, we're going to see him again. The Lord's coming. We're going to see him. I said, I know, baby. I just wish I could hear his voice one more time and see him. I wake up in the middle of the night crying, just clenching my hands like in agony, not knowing or thinking I could go back to sleep. But I had a dream, and he came in the dream, and it was like he was gone already, but he was sent to visit us. And I was asking him, do you remember your old horses? And I remember those. And I knew it was a short visit, and I'd look at him, and then I'd turn my head and just wail. I mean, just sob without him knowing. because I knew it was a short visit, and I knew that visit wasn't gonna last. And maybe it was my brain telling me this visit is just a dream, it's not gonna last. But I felt like it was so real. Then I had a dream the very next day that he was older, and I talked to him again, just slightly older, just taller. It's just God, the Lord sees the cry of our heart. There's nothing that we go through. It says that he's mindful of the sparrow that falls. There's nothing that we go through that he's not aware of with our pain. So you ask, why does he let you go through it? I don't know. Each circumstance is different. But I know, like Marcus, he allows trials to happen to some of his strongest generals because he knows that we can handle it. Because he's given us everything that we need that pertains to life. And he knows that we have the strength to endure certain things because he's our strength. I'm still serving him. I'm still loving him. It hurts that my son is gone. But I told the Lord that I'll never stop loving him. I'll never stop serving him. So people say, how can you serve a God that would take your son? How could I serve? How can I not serve, love, live for a God who gave his life for me? God knows what it's like to lose his only son. Mary knew what it's like to lose her son. If God were not in my life, I would have never survived the last 8 years. And before that, I never would have survived getting knocked down to the ground, hit in the head and knocked down to the ground, and picked back up again, only to get knocked back down to the ground again, to get dragged and choked, and to get kicked in the face. Tried to get kicked in the head, but I turned, so I got kicked in the face. Domestic abuse happened once, but that one time was so violent, it was enough. And then trying to put the pieces of my life back together after that. Struggling financially for years. Losing everything that we had in our storage units, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Not knowing where money was going to come from and how ends were going to be met. Every time God was faithful, every time he provided. Yes, we lost our stuff, but I'll have to give you the miracle about something that we lost that was so special. And how God cares about most minute details. He has shown me beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is real. And I lost my son. Does it hurt? Yes, that will turn some people away from God, but it made me run to him because he's the only way that I'm going to get through this. He's my strength. He's my song. In the middle of the night when I can't go back to sleep, he comforts me with his presence and his peace, and he rocks me back to sleep. And he's the reason I'm alive today. Like my son's dream, it's up to the Lord to decide when we go. People were praying all over the world, praying for Marcus again. One of my videos on Facebook got over 10,000 views. So it's not that prayer doesn't work. Prayer works, absolutely. Prayer is effective and powerful, especially the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man. But it can show that you can get all the prayer in the world, but when it's your time, it's your time. And even after my son passed, I asked God to bring it back like the dream. And I whispered in my son's ear, I laid next to him, you can come back to me, it's not too late. But I know that once he graced the gates of heaven, as in his dream, please watch it, Having a Child's Dream. It's a video I made in the hospital, one of his visits when he was 5 years old. I made that video and I put it here on YouTube. I made it with the grace and strength of God. But once he graced the gates of heaven, he wasn't coming back. If you don't know the Lord, if you knew him but have walked away, your faith has been tried, don't give up on him. I'm standing before you, or sitting before you today, living witness that the power of God is real. The things I saw my son come back from, He should have died 8 years ago. How did he survive with a new beginning? 8 never new beginnings. How did he survive 8 years beyond what should have wiped him out in the beginning? Survived against all odds, but when the time came, it was his time. It wasn't that God failed or that he was weak. It was my son's time. God is the God of the impossible. And I hang on to that with all that's in me. And I believe that my son's testimony will be even more powerful now than it was when he was alive. Because the power of God still works today. It still carries on strong. It still carries on the torch. The power of God is amazing. And it's what's holding me, sustaining me, lifting me up. Going through another storm right now. I got sick and wasn't able to work last month. It wasn't COVID. I just was sick a couple times within like a 5-week period between November and December. And so we're going through a storm trial right now, but I know that God's going to turn it around. A lot of people are going through so much right now with COVID and just the events of this world. But if we hold fast to the profession of our faith, God will move. He's going to intervene and turn it around. And I'm going to come back with a praise report when I can say what it is that I'm dealing with. I'm going to come back with a praise report one day and share about the goodness of God, about how he brought me through. There's an old song we used to sing in the church, how I got over. My soul looks back and wonders how I got over. I'm going to sign off and get into this because this has been my meat, my strength, my nourishment. And it's going to continue to be. I pray for you today that you will stand and endure and survive all that's coming at you. The key to my heart, the key to my survival is Christ. And that's the key to yours too. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Pray for my girls. Pray for my strength. And I'll pray for you guys too. We'll pray for one another. Sound fair? Thanks for watching.